Can we control our awareness with free will? Can we concentrate it where we want, or are there restrictions? Do we have free will, and if yes, to what extent?
Can we control our awareness with free will? Can we concentrate it if we want, or are there other restrictions? Do we have free will, and if yes, to what extent? It's a big subject of free will, but I can tell you very briefly. Free will is an experience, a necessary experience for seeking. Therefore, it's a unique gift given to human beings to have free will, to feel they can seek, they can look for what they want. Therefore, it's an actual experience. It's not something that we are making up that, oh, I have free will, but I really don't have free will. Except when a guy says, I am helpless, he has no free will. If you are not saying that, you have free will. When we make decisions on awareness, we are making with the same free will. When we decide to sit for meditation, we are doing it with free will. When we decide not to sit for meditation, go to play, we are doing it with free will. We are using free will all the time. And that is why, I don't know if I told you the story of another friend of mine, who also when I was studying at Cambridge, at Harvard, he was also a student there, philosophy. He was studying philosophy with some interesting professors, psychology professors. And he called me one morning. He said, Eureka! I found out we have no free will. And I said, how did you find out? He said, I found out on the basis of religion, religious belief. Religion says that God, the Creator, is omnipresent, omnipotent, that means present everywhere, all powerful, and omniscient. He knows everything. If God knows everything, and we are trying to decide something, does He know what we are going to decide? If He doesn't know, He's not omniscient. And if He knows, we have no free will. Very simple way to find out. That if we believe in God, an omniscient God, a God who knows everything, then He must know what we are going to decide. If He doesn't, He is not God, the one we are defining by omniscience. That is why He said, I found out. I said, will you please come to my apartment? I'll discuss this further with you. Whether you said you found there's no free will. Okay. When he came, I tried a little trick on him. I prepared a tray with a cup of coffee and a cup of tea and an empty cup. When he came, I said, my friend, would you like coffee or tea or nothing? I've got all three here. And don't use your free will, you don't have any. He said, what have you done to me? I said, I'm proving that you can't help having free will. If you say coffee, you have just used free will. If you say tea, you have used free will. If you say nothing, you use free will. If you say don't want to answer, you have used free will. Escape from free will now. You said there is no free will, and I'm proving to you have free will. Your actual free will, all the time, every day you use free will. Therefore, the experience of free will is real, and we cannot avoid it. Now, was it real? I said, you might have heard in spiritual talks, people say there is no real free will. It's just an illusion that we feel free will. Really, everything is predetermined. The two things don't make sense to us while we are using free will. Maybe they will make sense when we go to where already everything is predetermined, the causal plane. Right now, it doesn't make sense to us. I am not going to use that argument. I am going to use a scientific argument, an actual scientific proven thing. That when I offered you tea, coffee, or nothing, your mind was thinking what to take, coffee or tea or nothing. Now, when your mind contemplates the use of free will, what are the factors in the mind, known or unknown to you, which are helping you to decide? Only two sets of factors. One, hereditary, your DNA, your Father was drinking coffee. Grandfather was drinking coffee. It's gone into you. And therefore, the tendency to prefer coffee is coming from your genes. Or there can be a second reason. You have spent time with coffee drinkers. And therefore, you acquired a taste for coffee. Do you realize at the time when I offered you tea and coffee, both those factors, where you have been associating with people and where you were born, is already fixed. Therefore, the factors that affected you to make your choice were already fixed, scientifically. Therefore, you had no choice but to make coffee. The only reason why you thought you had free will is because you're neither aware of your hereditary genes, what they're carrying, nor are you aware to remember all the acquisition of tendencies that you acquired by company. Therefore, scientifically also, we are only acting on these factors. There's no third factor at all. So that is why those factors, every time we make a decision, both are fixed. They're already gone. You can't change them. That is why free will is merely an experience because we're not aware of the totality. If we could be aware of all our past, if we could be aware of all our ancestry, we would right here physically know why we are choosing coffee, why we are choosing tea, why we are taking that decision. All decisions that we make are based on these two factors. So that is why free will is an experience when we are ignorant. So, and the other ignorance is we don't know what will happen the next 5 minutes, what will happen next year. We have no idea. We just think it will happen like that. Things don't always turn out like that. Ignorance of the future establishes the reality of free will. Free will is real so far as we are ignorant. When we get the knowledge, free will disappears. Then we know how the pattern of free will has been established, how it is set up. I'll tell you, I might have told you earlier a story. I once went for an interview for the Indian Navy when I was working in India. And after I came from the interview, there was a man with a turban standing, saying, "Good luck to me, good luck." So I said, "Why are you talking in English? We are Indian people sitting here." He said, "I have some good luck for you. I'll tell you something." So he told me some things. Then he said, "Okay, do you have a piece of paper?" I said, "Yes." I took out a piece of paper. He said, "Give me the pen also." So he looked at my eyes and began to write on it. Looking at me, writing something. I said, "I don't know what he's writing." Then after that little piece of paper, he folded it like this, then he folded it like this, then he further folded like this, and gave it in my hand. He said, "Hold this in your hand. Now take out another piece of paper and write the answers to my questions. First question, write a number between 1 and 10. I said, "This is a very old trick." I thought to myself, as children we used to play, "Tell me a number, I'll guess it." I'll write a number 5. Between 1 and 10, they say 5. I said, "This chap is thinking, I am going to write 5. I am going to call his bluff off." So I wrote 3. He said, "Write the name of a flower." I said, "He's expecting me to write the most common name, Rose. I am not going to write that." This interview was taking place in Lucknow, away from my own state of Punjab. I said, "I write the name of a flower he may not have heard of." So I wrote Chameli, Chameli in capitals. And then he said, "Write your date of birth." I wrote 1926. He looked at me, "This is not your date of birth. This is your year of birth. Write your date." So in India, we always write the date before the year. So then I added after that November 26. And he said, "Now open the paper I gave you." So I opened the paper he had given me, which was in my hand. And when I opened it, it said very clearly, 3 Chameli, 1926. And then the date, exactly as I had it. I was completely stunned. How could he write before I even thought about the numbers? How is it possible? I said, "Please tell me how you do it." He said, we are a small group of people called Bhatras. We are Bhatras, and we have been trained by a guru to read the minds of people as it will be next 5 minutes. Not what is happening now. What will happen in their mind in the next 10 minutes, we have learned that. It's a very special kind of meditation we do that jumps ahead into the future and picks up 5 minutes of knowledge of a person. And I am one of those people, I used it. So, what struck me was, how could he know what I am going to use with my free will for? I use my free will. I even debated. While I was thinking like this, he said, shall I tell you more? I said, please go ahead. He said, when I asked you to write a number between 1 and 10, you said, he is thinking I will write 5. I will call off his bluff and I'll write 3. He told me my exact thought. When I said, write a name of flower, you said, I'll write a name of a flower he may not have heard of. He repeated my thought. And this was so amazing for me that he not only told me what I would think of later, he told me a whole thought process. That was a big experience. Since I narrated this experience in some of my talks, I have heard from many people around the world having similar experiences from similar Bhatras who are some very few people are left like that, but they have a meditation technique just to see a future. Proving clearly that what we think we are doing with free will is pre-written. But we feel it's free will because we don't know what the future is. That is why ignorance is creating this experience. So that is why we use free will, which is an experience for us, to meditate, to go up to the third level. After that, free will stops, the mind is not using free will, and the pull of love of a master pulls us up.